Dr. Paul, welcome to the Own Your Good podcast. I appreciate you taking some time to talk with me.
I'm excited about this. I've been looking forward to it.
Awesome. Thank you. So the Own Your Good podcast is geared to help people maybe get some motivation to find what it is that they love, what they're passionate about. And that could be like a personal hobby thing, or that could be eventually turn into a career or something. So for those that don't know, Dr. Paul Jenkins is the man behind the magical Live on Purpose. And I don't even know what the foundation, whatever that is, the master plan, because you've got YouTube going, you've got a podcast going, you've got some presentations and things. So, Dr. Paul, go ahead and tell us what your focus is right now, and then we'll go back into how you got there and what you thought you wanted to do when you grew up.
There's always a journey to get wherever you're going.
Yeah.
But I love where you're going with this, Dave, because own your good. Connecting with maybe what your purpose is. And my practice is called Live on Purpose, as you were trying to describe this enterprise
right.
that makes up Live on Purpose. I didn't set out to do that, but when we launched our YouTube channel, for example, I was thinking, I just want to put some videos out there in a place where people can get to them and get connected to principles that change their outcomes, because I believe principles determine all of life's outcomes.
Yeah.
And we launched that about 3 years ago, and we're going to hit 200,000 subscribers next month.
That is great.
Which I didn't expect, but apparently it means that people are really thirsty for connecting to the principles. I believe this, and I think you probably share this belief, Dave, that each one of us is equipped with some kind of a purpose, or maybe even a divine mission or calling.
Yeah.
That connects us to other people in ways that we can create value for them and we can love our life.
Yeah.
So the thing that really lights me up is helping people to hit their sweet spot. And that's where they do what they love. For those who love what they do, and there's an economic impact to that.
Yeah.
Through connecting to principles of positivity. And positivity for me, Dave, I'll just say a brief thing about that, because I'm sick and tired of all these motivational speakers, and I know a bunch of them, who get on the mic and they say, oh, just think positive.
Yeah.
As if
it's just that easy.
I don't know even what that means. And it's just this trite, fluffy emptiness until you understand that positivity is really about how to operate the equipment of your own mind. So that's my mission in a nutshell. I'm helping people to learn how to operate the equipment.
That's awesome. When you say operate the equipment, I can physically see that with, I don't know, a tractor or something, right? Can you explain that in just a phrase or maybe a few? What that looks like, operating your brain, operating the equipment is your process, right? How you think.
Right. It's called metacognition. Metacognition is a big fancy made up psychobabble word. But all it means is, if you break it down, cognition means thinking.
Right.
And metacognition is a higher level. It's thinking about thinking.
Nice.
And my job really is to illuminate the obvious, which is cool because I get paid to tell people things they already know. But Dave, there's obvious things that are completely unnoticed until it's called to your attention.
Right.
Okay, like your shirt. Can you feel it?
Every day.
No, you can't.
Well, yeah. This psychology principle, I think about this occasionally. Go ahead with what your thought of my shirt.
Well, so as soon as I mention your shirt, you become very aware of it.
Right.
Even though you were completely oblivious to it before I mentioned it.
Right.
Unless it's itchy or something, right? Or the fact that we're speaking English. Did you notice? Again, it's obvious.
It's a default.
But unnoticed, because it's default. We just default to our programming. And many of the processes in our own mind are in that realm. They're in that space of obvious once they're called to your attention, but completely unnoticed up until that point.
Yeah. So thinking about something that might be upsetting us, we don't really pay attention to it until it has become so bad that it bothers us that we've got to figure out, what is this? Why is this causing a problem? It's just like anything else that we do. It's just everyday routine until it's a problem.
And even then, all we know is that we're upset. We don't stop to think, why am I upset? Wait a minute, what is the thought process or the belief system that's driving this feeling? We don't think that.
Yeah.
We just feel upset.
And we think that it's somebody else is causing it to us.
Well, let me give you an example of how this works, because as we're recording this episode of your podcast,
Yeah.
Dave, we're in the middle of a global pandemic.
Yeah.
Now, podcasts, the thing I love about it is evergreen. You know, people could, oh yeah, I remember that, or I read about that in my history book.
Sure.
Or, yeah, we're still in the middle of it. Whenever you're hearing this, dear listener,
Yeah.
I have had this call so many times, Dave, because I'm a positivity psychologist. I have clients, former clients, and others who are reaching out to me and they're saying, Dr. Paul, how do we stay positive during such challenging times?
Yeah.
And they don't even stop to think, oh, I'm calling it challenging times. Is it? Are they? Challenging times? I've got a book right here on my desk. Immaculée Ilibagiza, Left to Tell. This young lady survived the Rwanda Holocaust, the genocide that happened that exterminated over 1 million people.
Yeah.
Or close to 1 million. I can't remember the exact count, in about 90 days. This is worse than Auschwitz.
Yeah.
And we're in challenging times, really, compared to what?
Yeah.
Now, as I bring that to your attention, you can see, oh, well, compared to that, this isn't so bad.
Sure.
But you didn't notice that until it was called to your attention.
We had this exercise in my class today. My students are writing an essay about how the pandemic has been for them in school over the last 3 years.
Yeah.
And they can call out all the bad stuff easy. The schedule's been different. I can't hang out with my friends, all the different things. But then I tried to ask them, well, what good has happened? And there are a few who are working on something that they can see progress in, and it caused the other students to kind of say, wait, I guess, like we're struggling at home, but other people are not as frustrated or stressed out about this as I am.
Yeah. Here's the bottom line. Whatever's happening all around us is neutral until we judge it or evaluate it. Evaluation is the word that I use to help you see a process that's going on in your mind all the time. You can't turn it off. Dave, this is like gravity.
Yeah.
You never get up in the morning and think, oh, I wonder if gravity's on. It tends to be.
Yeah.
And this is like that because you can't turn it off. Just notice that you are constantly evaluating or judging everything.
Yeah.
Yourself, your spouse, your family, the circumstances, the presidential candidates, the economy, the pandemic.
Yeah.
You can't turn it off.
Yeah. That's
and the point that I was making with Immaculée.
Yeah.
The only way we can judge something is in comparison to some standard.
Yeah.
You know this, you're an educator.
Yeah.
In comparison to what standard? And so we have our students take standardized tests.
Right.
Why? So we can evaluate them. So every time you evaluate something, it's in comparison to some standard. And if you don't have one, you'll make one up.
Yeah.
And you got a really good imagination too.
Yeah, and I think that's probably what the students are thinking about the most is last year's school experience was great compared to this.
And that's the standard.
And that's why they're thinking that this is so terrible.
Yeah. I had a guy in here on my couch not too long ago. He's like, oh, my job sucks and my boss and my coworkers and I just can't stand my job right now. And I'm like, you have a job?
Right. I was just listening on the radio. How many millions don't?
Right.
Yeah.
What a great problem to have.
Yeah.
My kids are driving me nuts. You have kids?
Right.
And they're alive?
Right. And you talk with them?
See, this brings it to your attention that, oh, what am I comparing it to?
Right.
Dave, I have worked with parents whose children were killed. And my kids are driving me nuts. Hello?
Yeah.
You got kids.
That's powerful.
Now, this irritates and annoys some people. But I'm not here to tell you how to think. Honestly, I don't have that kind of authority.
Right.
Okay? I just want you to see that you are thinking, and that thinking matters. It has an outcome.
Yeah. So that's,
You want to change your outcomes, change your thinking.
as you talk about your process and how you are currently a positivity psychologist and how you get to illuminate the obvious to people.
Yeah.
And so the things that you're saying are like, wow, that is profound. That is impactful. You're right. I haven't ever thought about it, but now I am. You're done.
And it's obvious once you do.
You've done your job.
Yeah.
Let's go back. So you were a psychologist practicing clinical before, way back.
Yeah.
What did you think life had in store for you when you were in elementary school or maybe junior high or high school?
Well, if you go way back, I was born at an early age with my twin sister. When I came out of high school, Dave, I was always a good student. I enjoyed the academics. I did well in school. I graduated as valedictorian of my very small high school class. Right there with my twin sister, right? And I went into the university on full scholarship, majoring in chemical engineering.
Wow.
So that's where I started my academic life.
Yeah.
In the small town where I grew up, they didn't have psychologists.
Yeah. Was there somebody that you knew that?
And bishops and stuff.
Yeah. Was there somebody that you knew that was a chemical engineer or some sort of engineer that could point you in that direction?
Well, engineering, so because I was a good student, the tradition is if you're good in math and science, you go into
Right.
engineering.
Right.
I didn't even know psychology was a thing. Really?
Yeah.
Never had a class in it, hadn't had any experience in it, didn't know anybody. And then after about a year, my first year at the university, I took 2 years off to do a volunteer service mission for my church.
Sure.
And during that time, I had the opportunity to have very profound, principle-based, meaningful discussions with people that actually changed their level of happiness.
Yeah.
And I realized that was my thing. I realized that's what I wanted to do. That's what lighted me up.
Yeah.
And so when I came home from that mission experience, I changed my major to psychology. And that's when I started into the psychology track.
Okay.
I went through my bachelor's degree, got a PhD in clinical psychology, set up a practice, general outpatient, child and family focused psychotherapy practice. Did that for about 12, 13 years and realized that wasn't quite it either.
Yeah. So pointing out on your service mission experience, providing people with principles that, if acted upon, would change their feeling about life and a lot of other things, I'm sure.
Hey, it's not magic. It's not luck. Principles determine all of life's outcomes. And I think that experience for me, Dave, helped me to start connecting with that particular line of thinking.
Yeah.
And it got inside of me in a way that I wanted to have that experience as often as I could, where I see the lights go on for somebody. When they realize, when you connect to a principle and you realize, oh, it's the aha experience
Yeah.
that we talk about in psychology. Wow, the lights go on, you connect with a principle. I've since learned that there's more to it than that, because there's two different kinds of learning. There's breakthrough learning, that's the aha experience.
Yeah.
And then there's transformational learning, which is more like learning a language. Okay? You don't learn a language in an aha moment.
Yeah.
You get to put in your homework. And
Right.
we can talk about that if you want to.
Yeah.
As well.
So that had to be cool as you're learning. And I'm sure if anybody's had a class where they were in their field, they know that this is the stuff that I love. That has to be a really cool feeling. But not everybody that goes into psychology, or any field for that matter, thinks, okay, here are all my options. And so going into psychology, earning your PhD, setting up a practice, you couldn't tell right off. I don't think anybody can. You start into that lane, you start into that process, and it kind of feels right because you're in psychology. What was the breaking point? What was it in psychology or in dealing with patients or dealing with situations? What was it that sort of broke you and said, that's it, I've got to go do this?
Well, I told you that the mission experience I had is what got me thinking along these lines.
Yeah.
But I tell people all the time, look, your sweet spot is doing what you love for those who love what you do. And you've got to have both. Otherwise, there's not an economic exchange.
Yeah.
You can't sustain it, right? You discover what your unique abilities are by paying attention to, I think, 4 criteria.
Okay.
And the mission kicked it off for me. But not just that. It was experiences I'd had way back in elementary and secondary school.
Okay.
Where people would come to me and they wanted to spill their guts,
Yeah.
right? They wanted to tell me about this or that. And I come naturally by some of the skills that made me a good clinician as a psychologist,
Okay.
and that continue to support me as I am a positivity coach with a PhD in psychology. It's a cumulative effect. So here are the 4 criteria that I tell people to look for.
Yeah.
Number 1, you love it. Okay?
Okay.
It lights you up. You have a passion for it. You want to do it. All right? If it doesn't, then probably that's not it.
Yeah.
Number 2, you have exceptional skill in that area. You're better than most people at this thing.
Gotcha.
This is where we sometimes discount ourselves, because there's also a learning and training kind of experience that we get to go through.
Right.
There's no brain surgeon that was just naturally good at brain surgery,
Right.
but maybe they had very good fine motor skills and the other core skills
Sure.
that are built into you as a person. So you have exceptional skills or skill sets in the area that we're talking about. Number 3, it adds energy to your life. You know how some things just drain you?
Uh-huh.
Not this. When you embrace your goodness, that thing that we're all looking for, it adds energy to your life. Dave, I go home from a full day. I did 11 hours yesterday.
Yeah. Yesterday was a long day.
I go home from a full day doing what I love, and I feel energized. I feel pumped.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's hard to sleep after. And like when I was writing my books, I've written 3 so far. I'm not done. Because it does light me up. When I'm in a book project, I cannot sleep on Saturday morning because my brain tells me that's my writing time.
That's awesome.
I haven't used an alarm in years.
Yeah.
And I'm up writing at 5 o'clock on Saturday morning.
That's cool. So you have a couple of different ones, both the interaction that you have talking about positivity with people, illuminating the obvious for them, but also writing and creating something for people there. That's cool. So you've got a couple of things that contribute to this.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the core is all the same.
Right.
Okay. The core driving factors. I've got a passion for it. I've got exceptional skill in that area. It adds energy to my life. And here's the fourth one. And I got a warning about the fourth one. Okay?
Yeah.
Because when you find your sweet spot, you can't turn it off. Right? So number 4 is you seek constant improvement.
Yeah.
You are always looking for the upgrade.
Yeah.
And that's hard to explain, Dave, but I see so many people who have achieved mastery in their field, they can't turn it off.
Yeah.
And so they're constantly seeking ways to improve and upgrade. You mentioned my podcast, which I've been doing since 2007.
Mm-hmm.
And then I upgraded that with a YouTube channel.
Yeah.
I've been doing for the past 3 years.
Yeah.
And then I've upgraded that with a membership site.
Right.
Live on Purpose Central, where we're taking care of people's mental hygiene.
Which is fantastic. And I'd like to talk about, because I've started that this week after we had a conversation earlier.
Yeah.
It's totally true. Your mental, and this is illuminating the obvious for me, taking care of the things that keep you sharp and focused and that you're worth the day. Yeah. That is awesome. You didn't necessarily, it was probably just a long process going from practicing PhD, family relationships and things to positivity. What was that jump, that excursion, that switch like? And then whether it was over time or kind of an instant realization, how easy was it for you to accept that?
A Facebook Live with Verl Workman not too long ago of Workman Success Systems. And he says, so was this hard? And I'm like, heck yes, it was. Anything worthwhile is hard, right? But as you're asked, remember a moment ago I said that we've got 2 kinds of learning. There's breakthrough, the aha moment, and there's transformation.
Right.
Which is more like learning a language. And it's been both. In fact, the aha is what sets you up for the language study.
Yeah, I think I've experienced that, where that initial hook, that initial adrenaline rush, whatever that is the thing that you keep referring back to as you experience and it's not always a drudgery, but that process of investigating and meditating and investigating and investing. Yeah.
Yeah, right. And that's what it was like for me. The YouTube channel, for example, we've had some phenomenal success with that just over the last couple of years. We're getting 20,000 views a day of people consuming this content on parenting and positivity and relationships and whatever that we've got there on the channel.
Yeah.
But that came about through an aha moment and there were a couple of them actually, Dave, but the one that I'm calling to mind was sitting in a Bravenel Hall in Salt Lake City, listening to Dr. Sanjay Gupta.
Okay.
He was giving a keynote for us that night. We had a Q&A with him afterwards. So in this beautiful hall.
Yeah.
Dr. Gupta is a neurosurgeon, okay? And he's also a correspondent for CNN. So he goes into earthquake zones and war zones and hurricanes.
Yeah.
He had his boots on the ground in Puerto Rico that morning.
Yeah.
And that night he was in a Bravenel Hall with us. And it was right after that hurricane that was so devastating down in Puerto Rico back in 2017. And during the Q&A, somebody asked him, so what's the most disturbing thing you've ever seen? He's seen a lot.
Oh, sure.
Okay?
A lot of places.
Death and disease. And he didn't even hesitate. He said, it's the unnecessary death. And then he went on to explain. He says, we get it. You know, people are going to die in a hurricane. That's part of the deal.
Yeah.
But what was disturbing was all the people who die after the fact because they don't have access
Right.
to water and food and medical supplies, everything that they need to get through this tragic occurrence.
Yeah.
And the tragedy of it is that all of that stuff exists in containers, on ships, in the port, on the island.
Yeah.
But there's no distribution process to get it out to them. And I've known my whole career, Dave, that these principles that I share with people in my practice, they enrich lives and they save lives.
Yeah.
I know people whose lives were saved by it, and other people whose lives could have been saved had they received it.
Yeah.
That's the tragedy. And so that was my aha.
Right.
Go, start a YouTube channel. You've got to figure out a lot of stuff.
Right.
And I've worked with a brilliant team, including Nate Woodbury and some beautiful people in the Philippines who handle all of the editing and the scheduling and the post-production of these videos that now we've been doing for 3 years. But it's saving lives. So the aha, when Dr. Gupta said what he did, and then signing a contract the next week with Nate Woodbury and working my butt off to sustain this channel.
Right.
And it's taken a lot of work. I'm not going to, try to hide that. That's
right.
Anything worthwhile is hard. But the aha and the strong why behind it sustains you for all of the hard hows that you get to do over the next weeks and months and years after you have your aha moment.
Yeah.
You can relate to this. I know you can.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. There's definitely doubt, wondering if what I'm doing is what I'm supposed to be doing. When it comes to positivity, I'm sure there are people who, like you said, when you hear a motivational speaker say, just think positive, is there anything that you could say in that moment to make that person realize that you're not one of those motivational speakers? Just think positive, because everybody has those down days. Or come on, Dr. Paul, you're supposed to be Dr. Positive. Why are you down? What do you say if you are down, or how do you keep up? Or
well, here's the thing. Positivity, I think we have to understand what positivity is and what it is not.
Okay.
And the reason why the trite, fluffy, just think positive is so annoying is because it feels like a dismissal of people's real pain.
Yeah.
And we all have pain. I love the way Tim Hansel put this. He said, pain is inevitable. Misery is optional. And that has to do with positivity. Okay?
So the pain is going to happen.
For sure.
But the misery, I think I understand the difference between the two. But the misery is what? How would you define that?
The way I define positivity, I think I've shared this with you, Dave. I know I have.
Yeah.
I've got a model, and I know if you're listening to the podcast, the audio version doesn't show the visuals.
I think I will put this video up so that people can see.
But you can also get a capture of this model in my mini book, Portable Positivity. I explain the whole thing, and I'll give you one for free, a digital copy of Portable Positivity. You can have it for free. And I can give you the link.
Yeah,
put in
we'll
the
link
show
to it.
notes or whatever,
Yeah.
Dave. But just remember drpauljenkins.info/ and then the title, Portable Positivity. But we can put that up for you.
Yeah.
I'm giving that away because I want people to understand how their mental mechanism is processing their life. And there are two processes going on. I already told you about evaluation or judgment.
Mm-hmm.
You can't turn it off. How you judge your life determines how you feel here and now. And so misery, I think, is when we get into a position of saying, my life sucks. I'm sorry, can I say sucks on your podcast?
That's totally fine. So the pain that we're experiencing, we internalize that as there's no option, there's no way out. it is what it is, and I'm just going to be miserable about it.
Well, recognizing that whatever's going on in your life, whatever it is, it might be disease, or you've lost someone, or it could be a financial problem or a relationship issue or health concerns or whatever. Okay, whatever it is simply what it is. Is it good or bad? Well, that depends on how you judge it. And this is the hardest thing for people to recognize up front, because if I'm experiencing pain or difficulty or discontent or frustration, our training and programming is to judge that as bad.
Yeah.
Well, it's not bad. It's just an inevitable part of life. How you judge it determines how you feel. And so here's the bottom line, Dave. When you compare your what it is to something better, you feel worse.
Yeah.
About what you got. Simple enough?
Yeah.
When you compare your what it is, which is different from mine, when you compare your what it is to something worse, you feel better.
Yeah.
Just notice it.
Yeah.
That's why pain is inevitable, but misery is optional.
The best thing that just popped into my head to illustrate that would be my kids' dislike of certain food. Well, they're comparing it to their favorite. So of course it's going to be terrible. But if we compare it to what the dog's eating.
Or compared to starvation.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we get ourselves into a positive evaluation of what is most quickly through gratitude. And that's the brain hack. Okay?
Yeah.
You focus on what you're grateful for, and especially about or from or because of the painful, difficult, hard things in your life. Pull those up and find the gratitude that comes because of that thing, not despite it or around it or ignoring it, but because of it. And the pandemic's a great example. I had a client who's a very prominent pediatrician in Europe, and her daughter, who is 4, came up to her and said, "Mommy, I love virus." And Mommy's a physician. She's a pediatrician. She's like, "Sweetie, what do you mean?" She says, "I get my mommy back."
Yeah.
Because she was doing a lot of work from home and telemed and all.
Yeah.
This little 4-year-old nailed it.
Yeah.
Look, there are upsides and downsides to everything. And what we focus on, we feel. What we think about comes about. And that leads to the next process, because we're not done with evaluation. We're also powerful creators.
Yeah.
And the second half of the model has to do with how we are going to create what is to be. And that doesn't exist yet because we haven't created it yet.
Yeah.
You have to imagine it first, though. And Dave, how do you feel when you imagine that what's coming is worse?
Oh, that's miserable. That's worse than miserable.
Yeah, that's misery. That's anxiety. Specifically, there's 30 years of clinical experience for you.
Okay, so worrying about what's coming, thinking it's going to be bad, is anxiety.
You don't know.
Okay.
You don't know. How are you doing next week?
Good, I think. Hopefully.
Yes, I hope. You don't know.
Yeah.
That's my point. Now, you've got something to do with it because you have to imagine it first and then go create it. This is how everything works. Nothing just pops into being. You have to imagine it first. That's why architects get paid more than guys who swing hammers.
Yeah.
That's where the creation happens. The creation happens here in the mind. So what are you imagining is coming? You don't know, but when you imagine that what's coming is worse, you feel anxiety.
Yeah.
Ding, ding, ding.
And another obvious. I feel like there are so many of these little things where I wish I could just like make a bumper sticker for all of my students What you're anticipating, is it going to be good or bad? Because that's how you're going to feel.
And you don't know. How do you feel if you imagine or anticipate or expect that what's coming is even better than what you've already got? How do you feel?
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah.
Can't wait.
You don't know?
Yeah.
You don't know. So pick a position. And that's attitude, by the way. My son is a pilot. He's taken me up flying a couple of times in a little 2-seat sport cruiser.
Yeah.
And he's pointed out on the dashboard of that little airplane, both sides, attitude indicator. It's the most important instrument in that cockpit.
Yeah.
And years ago, I didn't even know that was an aviation term.
Right.
Attitude is that plane's position relative to the ground or the horizon.
Yeah.
Attitude is our position, our chosen position relative to what it is. Is it good or bad? And where's it going from here? See, 2 processes, evaluation and creation. You get to choose. You don't always get to choose what it is, do you?
No.
Have you noticed this? Some stuff just plops in your lap.
Uh-huh.
But you always get to choose your position relative to what it is. Is it good or bad? Pick a position. Where's it going from here? Pick a position.
Yeah.
And that determines how you feel. Just like attitude in an airplane, if you got a nose down attitude, you're heading into the hard stuff.
Yeah. Do you think you can change that in the middle of the process? Like, let's say that I know that I've got a meeting on a day at school or at somewhere. I've got a meeting that I've got to go to, and I have an idea of what about the meeting is about, and I'm anticipating that there's probably going to be some frustrated people.
Mm-hmm.
Before I walk in the door, can I switch that? How do I do it?
Absolutely. Kevin Clayson, good friend of mine, wrote a book called Flip the Gratitude Switch.
Yes, I remember that.
And that came to mind as you said that, Dave, because it's almost like flipping a switch. And it takes practice, okay?
Okay.
So as you have an aha experience, maybe as you're listening to this podcast or our conversation here today, as you have that aha experience, wait, things can be different. Well, guess what? That's just like realizing, oh, I could speak German.
I can't, though.
Hire a coach, enroll in a course, put in the reps.
Gotcha.
And get good at flipping the switch. Okay? So as you presented this, Dave, I've got a meeting I have to go to.
Okay.
You hear the wording?
Yeah. That phrase is a choice.
You have to? No, you don't.
Right.
What would happen if you didn't? No, I like to ask people that question because it's like, well, I have to. Well, what would happen if you didn't?
Yeah.
Which introduces an option that maybe you don't have to.
Yeah.
Well, I'd get fired. Okay. Try that on.
Would it be so bad?
Let's just see, because you can choose. You can opt in, you can opt out.
Yeah.
What if we flip that switch first? I have a meeting I choose to go to this afternoon. Now, nobody talks like that,
No.
Dave, but I want you to just entertain the possibility that maybe we can flip that switch.
Yeah.
Have to? Choose to.
Okay.
Pick one.
So the first one is the way we identify the problem or opportunity.
Mm-hmm. Which are very similar words, by the way.
Yeah.
In fact, in Chinese, they merge those 2 visual symbols together.
Really? Problem and opportunity.
And I even have, I got to show you this. I know we're still on an audio podcast, but I got a Chinese version of my.
Oh, that's awesome.
Isn't that fun?
Touching more people's lives.
Yeah.
Okay, so the first practice.
How are you framing it?
Yeah.
We start with our judgment of what it is, and you're judging that this meeting. Let's abbreviate this. It's a bad thing.
Yeah.
Okay, I know that's an oversimplification, but if you're saying I have to go, it's
right.
going to be this or that, and then you're predicting, okay?
Yeah.
So you're judging it, and then you're predicting what's going to happen when you don't even know.
Right.
It could be a cover for a surprise party for you.
Yeah.
And your brain is going to dismiss that because it's like, no, I don't think so. But the point is, you don't know.
Right.
Just notice that you're predicting something.
Yeah.
There's going to be frustrated people there.
Yeah.
It's going to be miserable.
Yeah.
Well, your mind has the ability to create that. So the more you imagine it, the more likely it is you're going to go create it.
Yeah. So when I walk in and I see people huffing and nobody's talking, or if they are talking, they're whispering in the corner, that just plays into my assumption. Whereas if I change that, I've changed my language. I get to go to a meeting, or I choose to go to a meeting. And then I'm probably worried that something negative is going to happen, but I don't know that. So I start to tell myself, instead of it's going to be miserable, it's an opportunity that I have to sit and whatever it is that I get to do during that time.
Yeah. Dave, why do you think we call it work? Look, you don't attend meetings at work to be entertained or to relax.
Right.
And we call it work because you have a skill set that you get to bring to the table to improve someone's life.
Yeah.
And when you have an opportunity to go improve someone's life, how do you feel?
Really good.
Isn't that awesome?
Yeah.
So I have a meeting I'm choosing to attend this afternoon to enact my skills to improve people's lives. And then your brain will, we're picking fights with our brain all the time, right? And so the thought comes in, but these aren't even my clients. These are my stupid coworkers.
Right.
Well, guess who you get to serve this hour? And what if your whole goal was to improve somebody else's life during this meeting? Even if it's not in the traditional way that your work would prescribe.
Sure. So a positive comment.
What we're doing with this? So we start with a positive evaluation. Our attitude, our position about this is a good thing. And it's an opportunity for me to go create something even better.
Yeah. I feel good about this meeting already.
Dave, it's simply our attitude, our position. And my son explained to me when he's flying.
Yeah.
Attitude does nothing about where you are. It has everything to do with where you're going.
Right.
And so you pay attention to the attitude of that plane, and that's going to change the trajectory wherever it's headed.
Yeah.
And similarly for us, if you can't change what it is, and you can't, it just is what it is.
Yeah.
We can change what is to be, and that's why we want to do this. So we get ourselves in a good position relative to what it is. This is a good meeting, an opportunity for me to do some awesome things. I choose to be here.
Yeah.
And then from that position, where are we going to go? You are so much more likely. Think about it. When you're feeling depressed, miserable, defeated, how likely are you to go do something productive?
Not likely. It's all about me and how I feel and how I can make myself feel better.
Conversely, if you're feeling grateful and blessed, how likely are you to go do something productive?
Yeah.
So pick a position that serves you well, and then employ your creative powers to go make it happen.
Yeah.
That's how the great things are created. And expect to fail. That is an important part of every creative process. Every successful person I've interviewed, without exception, has failed multiple times.
Yeah. So there might be somebody there might be somebody that's having a bad morning and they are thinking that they don't want to be at the meeting, but if I try to make them smile and they just won't, that's a failure.
Right.
But that doesn't reflect on me. That's out of my control. And I try again tomorrow.
And we define it as a failure, but John Maxwell wrote a book called Failing Forward.
Yeah.
I love that idea. Robert Kiyosaki says if you want to succeed, start failing faster.
Look for opportunities.
Everybody who understands success, Dave, agrees that failure is a crucial, indispensable part of the whole journey.
Yeah.
So hopefully
that's powerful.
Did that get where you want to go today?
For sure. The last thing that I typically follow up with, based on your experiences, and I hope that people can see the value of, and it isn't this hokey stereotypical, whether it's therapy or a coach or a psychologist, there is value in thinking about what we're thinking and figuring out how we can change our perception of things. I often interact with students and sometimes adults who aren't sure how to pursue the thing that they feel like they might be good at. Maybe the people around them, oh, we can't afford that, or whatever their thing is. What do you tell a student, a teenager, or even adult who might be mid-career with a sudden career change, or maybe close to retirement? How do they discover what they're good at? What is it? What advice would you give them?
First of all, if you think you're too old, compared to what?
I like that phrase.
I guarantee I can give you examples of people older than you who are going through transformational experiences in their life. Okay?
So what I hear you saying is, no matter how old you are, you can adjust, learn, and pursue whatever it is that you want to chase.
Right.
Okay.
That's a judgment. Okay? So notice that you're making it and determine whether that's the best attitude for you to have or not.
Yeah.
My dear friend, Mary Louise Zeller, well into her 70s, 6-degree black belt in Taekwondo.
Oh, yeah.
She didn't even start till she was 45.
Okay, so that tells me, I mean, you would assume in the martial arts that you got to be young and fit, but whatever it is that you have a passion for, whatever it is that you love, whatever it is that you think you want to pursue, you can. Whatever your perception is of that thing, whatever is normal for that thing doesn't apply.
We all have stories, okay? Notice it. It's like I said earlier, I'm not here to tell people how to think. I'm here to connect people to principles so that they can understand what's driving their outcomes. And we develop these stories, and we tend to believe our stories.
Yeah.
Okay? Like, I'm too old. I'm too fat.
Right.
I'm too young. I'm too whatever.
Whatever it is, yeah.
My daughter was on her way to high school one morning, and she was passing little Millie lives next to us, and my daughter had babysat her quite a bit. And she was just out on the lawn playing, as Lindy, my daughter, was on her way to school. And Lindy said, "Hey, Millie, do you want to go to high school for me and I'll stay home and play for you?" And she said, "Well, I can't." "Well, why not?" "Because I'm two. Well, I'm two."
Oh.
What if we just abandon all those stories and you're going to have 5-10 reasons not to do whatever you feel inspired to do because it's hard.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to lie to you about that. It's like learning German or how to fly an airplane.
Yeah.
It's hard. And so your brain will, to try to protect you, will come up with 10, 15 reasons why you can't do this. All you need is one good one.
Yeah.
One good reason to do it. If your why is strong enough, you can overcome all the difficult hows, and pay attention to it. If what you're thinking of doing is a career shift or a transformation in your life, if it doesn't strike some fear into your heart, you're not thinking big enough.
Yeah. Wow.
You know this, Dave.
Oh, yeah.
Preaching to the choir here.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's ever since our first meeting, you have constantly said something that has made me go, oh, just changed how I thought about things. And obviously it takes time to internalize it and develop it and build it and to own it.
And practice the new language.
But you got to practice it. You've got to figure out how it works for you and whatever that looks like, whatever your path is. And that's one thing that I've loved that you've said the most is you're right on time. And I think that's probably the one thing that most people could use hearing more often. You're where you're supposed to be. The process of development is happening. You're there.
All those barriers that you think are barriers, those are just enhancements to your story. That just makes it all the more inspiring when you pull this thing off.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, Dr. Paul, I appreciate you taking your time today to share some principles with us. And I hope that whoever is listening has found value and will at least attempt to incorporate this kind of filter process, how we perceive things, and make that modification practice in little situations so that the big ones aren't as, they don't throw us for a loop as much.
They're not as big.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you, Dr. Paul. We will definitely link to what it is that you're doing, the free digital copy of that. I just spaced what it's called.
Yeah. Grab the mini book, Portable Positivity.
Portable Positivity. Okay.
Yeah. Get that link. You can come over and check out what we're doing at Live on Purpose Central. Got a lot of good stuff going on there for mental hygiene.
Yeah, I've been
taking care of yourself.
I've been digging into that a little bit. It is definitely impressive, and would encourage people if they can to go check that out and work with it. Well, Dr. Paul, I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. For those that are just joining us, I would love to have you check out other episodes of our podcast. Visit us on Instagram. Let us know which episode has had the most impact on your life, whether it's somebody who is pursuing a hobby or whether it's some of these positivity things that we've gotten from Dr. Paul and some other people. Let me know what is helping you figure out how to own your good. Thank you for joining me today on Own Your Good. I'd like to give a special thanks to Arches Audio. They are the ones that provided this awesome music. If you need anything for a project, I would go and check them out. They have a great selection of music and other services to help you with your creative projects. I hope that you found this valuable. If you enjoyed this episode and it did something for you, or you think somebody might benefit from it, please share this. It would mean a lot to me to help spread this positivity and this idea that people can change, improve, and ultimately own their good.